Let me start by laying out the background here. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We got married young, both chasing careers, trying to build what we thought was a perfect life. At first, everything was smooth, smooth enough that I never really doubted her loyalty. But over the last year, I started noticing little things. She was more distant, secretive even. Her phone became like Fort Knox. She'd hide it whenever I walked into the room, and she'd get defensive if I even glanced at her screen. She'd snap at me more often, accusing me of being overly paranoid or insecure. She'd say things like, "You're just paranoid, I'm not cheating on you," or "You're obsessed with my phone. Why do you care so much?" But deep down, I felt something was off, something I just couldn't put my finger on. My gut was telling me to watch her more carefully, but I didn't want to believe it. No, I couldn't. Then came the promotion. Lisa had been pushing me hard to go for this new position at work, claiming it was a great opportunity, that I deserved it, that it would change everything for us. She was insistent, almost aggressive about it. She kept saying it was what I needed, that it would make me happier and more successful. I was hesitant at first. I had doubts about the extra hours, the stress. But she convinced me I was being paranoid and that it was the right move. She made it sound like I was crazy if I didn't go for it. So I did. I applied, went through the interviews, and finally got the promotion. Everything seemed to be moving in the right direction, or so I thought. But I started noticing after the retreat that something was really off. Lisa's attitude changed. She became even more bitchy, snapping at me for little things, arguing over stupid stuff, like I was some outsider she couldn't stand to be around. And then she started lying about things I knew were bullshit. One night I was scrolling through my messages just out of curiosity, nothing suspicious, I swear, when I saw a message from her from a coworker, Sarah. It was a casual chat, but what caught my attention was a mention of the corporate retreat, which I'd missed because I had to work late. I thought I was overthinking it, but then I saw a picture that a coworker had shown me, one that was obviously from the retreat. And in that picture, Lisa was cuddled up with the CEO of my company, David. That's when the bomb dropped. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going crazy at first. I stared at that photo and my mind just froze. That was not some friendly hug or a casual meeting. Those two looked like they had been fucking. Lisa had her hand on his chest. His arm was wrapped around her waist. They looked like they were having sex right there in that photo, and it wasn't some accidental thing either. They looked like they'd been doing this for a while. I felt sick. My stomach twisted, my heart pounding in my chest. How could she? After everything I did for her after all those years. And why the hell would she cheat on me with her boss, the guy who's basically running the company? It was like a punch in the gut, and I just sat there staring at that photo, trying to process how my life had turned into this nightmare. I knew she was bitchy, but I never thought she'd do something so outright dirty and manipulative. I didn't sleep that night. The anger, the betrayal, it just kept building. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Was I not enough? Or was she just a bitch that only cared about her own pleasure? The worst part was how she lied about everything, swore up and down she wasn't seeing anyone, that she was loyal, that she loved me, that she was just tired and stressed and maybe making some stupid mistakes. But that was all bullshit. I knew better now. I had the proof in my hands. The thing about Lisa is she's always been good at twisting things around. When I confronted her the next morning, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're crazy, Mike. You're just jealous. That's just a picture from a work event, nothing more." She even called me insecure, said I was imagining things, that I was paranoid and controlling. But I was. I had her on my phone, I had the photo, and I had every reason to feel betrayed. It hit me then, I was a fool. I gave her my trust, my love, my loyalty. I thought I was building a future with her, but she was out there sneaking around, sleeping with her boss, probably laughing behind my back. I felt humiliated, angry, and deeply hurt, all at once. How could she lie so easily? How could she look me in the face and deny everything when she was caught red-handed? That's when I started thinking about what to do next. I knew I couldn't just let this slide. I had to come up with a plan, something that would make her pay for this betrayal. But what? That's what I'm trying to figure out now. After I saw that photo, everything changed. I mean, I've read about betrayal, seen movies about it, but nothing prepares you for the real thing. My chest was tight and my mind was racing. I didn't want to just blow up at her right then. I needed a plan. I couldn't believe I was married to a woman capable of cheating with her boss, someone who's supposed to be her partner, her lover. I kept telling myself this couldn't be real, but deep down I knew it was. That photo was proof, and I couldn't ignore it. I spent the next couple of days pretending everything was normal, but inside I was boiling. I started watching her more carefully, noticing her phone was constantly in her hand, and she'd slip away for secret calls or text messages. Every glance she threw my way was filled with guilt or annoyance. She'd act like everything was fine, but I knew better. The way she avoided eye contact, the way she snapped at me over small things, it was like she was trying to push me away or maybe cover her tracks. I didn't care if she thought she was fooling me. I knew she was lying. I decided I needed to get more evidence. I installed a spy app on her phone, nothing too crazy, just enough to monitor her messages and calls. I was desperate. I figured if she was sneaking around with David, I needed to catch her red-handed. I wasn't some paranoid lunatic, just a guy who was betrayed by someone he trusted. I also started digging through her social media, her emails, anything I could find. The more I looked, the more I realized this wasn't some one-time thing, it was ongoing. They'd been sneaking around for weeks, maybe longer. One night I waited for her to go to the store, and that's when I found the real smoking gun. I went through her messages, her emails, and I saw a chain of texts between her and David. They'd been planning meetups, sharing intimate details, even talking about the thrill of sneaking around. I saw the times they were meeting, at least 3 times at the hotel near her office. Each message was more explicit than the last. I felt numb. How could she do this to me? How could she lie so blatantly, so shamelessly? Now I had enough evidence to confront her, but I wasn't just going to do it blindly. I wanted her to face the consequences, to see that I wasn't some naive fool. I started drafting my plan. I knew I had to be smart, play it cool, catch her off guard, and make sure she understood that I knew everything. I didn't want her to spin some bullshit story again, so I kept screenshots of every message, every photo, everything I had collected. The night I decided to confront her, she was in the kitchen, pretending to be normal, making coffee, humming some stupid tune. I stood there, my heart pounding, and I just looked at her. I felt a mix of rage and sadness. I wanted to scream at her, to tear her apart, but I kept my cool. I looked her in the eyes and told her I knew everything. Her face went pale for a second, then she started lying again, trying to minimize it, saying, "Mike, it's not what you think. We're just friends, it's nothing serious." That was the moment I realized she was a master manipulator. She had been playing me from the start. I told her I had enough evidence, that I knew about her affair with David. She looked stunned at first, then started crying, fake tears I suspected. She begged, saying it was a mistake, that it meant nothing, that she loved me. But her words felt hollow to me. I could see the guilt, the shame, but also the defiance. She wasn't sorry, she just didn't want to get caught. I felt like my world was crumbling. I thought I knew her, but now I saw the real face of this woman: bitchy, manipulative, and selfish. In that moment, I realized I had 2 choices. I could pretend I didn't know and try to work things out, or I could cut her loose and get revenge. Honestly, I was leaning toward the latter. I didn't want to just walk away, no. I wanted her to feel the pain of what she'd done. I wanted her to understand that betrayal has consequences. But I also knew I had to be careful. I didn't want to make a mistake or do something I'd regret forever. That's when I started planning my next move. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some pushover, that I could be cold and calculated if I had to be. That's where I'm at now, trying to figure out the best way to make her regret this. After that confrontation, everything felt different. The air was thick with tension, and I couldn't sleep or focus on anything else. My mind kept replaying her lies, her fake tears, her dismissive attitude. I was furious. How could she lie so easily? How could she betray me with her boss, David? The man who's supposed to be the leader of the company, someone I helped get to where he is. It wasn't just the affair, it was the betrayal of trust, the disrespect she showed me every day by hiding it. I knew I couldn't just walk away from this without making her pay. I didn't want her to feel like she got away with it, like she could cheat, lie, and manipulate her way out of everything. I needed a plan that would make her regret ever crossing me. So I started thinking about how to turn the tables. I didn't want some childish revenge. No, I wanted her to feel the same hurt, the same betrayal that I felt. I wanted her to see that messing around with her boss, someone she pushed me to trust, was the biggest mistake she ever made. The first thing I did was gather more evidence, more than just the texts and photos. I knew she was sneaky, so I started recording her calls when I could. I set up a small voice recorder in the house, nothing obvious, just enough to catch her conversations if she slipped up. I also kept an eye on her movements, watched her schedule, and confirmed she was still meeting David. Every detail mattered. I needed to be sure she was still lying, still hiding things because I was going to confront her again until I had everything. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, acting like she was innocent, like I was the one overreacting. She'd say things like, "You're just jealous," or "You're insecure," whenever I questioned her. It was so predictable, but I knew her tricks now. I knew her lies. I knew she was trying to manipulate her way out of this mess, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I felt betrayed, yes, but also motivated. I was going to make her regret everything. One evening, I intercepted a message from her phone, an encrypted message exchange with David. They were planning a weekend getaway, claiming it was just to have some time alone to relax, but I knew better. I saw the hotel reservation they had made, an expensive place right on the beach. I was furious. That's when I totally decided I wouldn't let her get away with this. I was going to expose her, but not in a way that would make her see only shame. No, I wanted to humiliate her a little, make her realize she had messed with the wrong man. I started by leaking some of their messages to a few close friends, people I trusted who could help me. I told them I had proof of her affair, and I wanted to see how she would react when everyone knew she was a liar and a cheat. I kept her in the dark about it, but I was planning my next move carefully. I knew she'd try to deny everything again, spin some story about how I was paranoid or delusional. But I also wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't going to be some doormat anymore. I started making arrangements to confront her in a way she didn't expect. I bought a hidden camera, set it up in the living room, and recorded her every move. I wanted her exact words, her reactions, everything. I was tired of being kept in the dark, tired of feeling like I was losing my mind. I needed the evidence, but I also needed her to slip up again so I could get her to admit the truth. The more I watched her, the more I realized how cold she'd become. She'd been so bitchy, so dismissive, and I could tell she was nervous whenever I was around. Like she knew I was onto her. That thrill of catching her, of finally exposing her, pushed me harder. I no longer cared about saving the marriage. I just wanted her to feel what I felt, or worse. I wanted her to understand that she couldn't lie her way out of this, that her actions had consequences. And then, just when I thought I had enough, she slipped up. She left her phone unlocked for a few seconds. I saw it instantly. I read a message from David, something about how much she loved the weekend away and can't wait to see him. I felt a surge of satisfaction mixed with pure rage. It was all there, proof that she was still lying and sneaking around, even after I confronted her. That night I sat down and wrote everything out, my feelings, what I'd uncovered, what I planned to do next. I realized that this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about standing up for myself, reclaiming my dignity, and finally putting an end to her lies. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do in the end, but I knew I wasn't going to let her get away with it without paying a price. That's where I am now, ready to face whatever comes next. The days that followed were a blur of planning and waiting. I kept the recordings going, the evidence piling up, and I made sure every move I made was calculated. I knew I couldn't confront her directly until I had everything in place. I didn't want her to lie her way out of it again. I wanted her cornered with no way to deny the truth. In the meantime, she kept acting like everything was normal, at least outwardly. She'd come home pretending to be this innocent victim, acting like I was overreacting, accusing me of being paranoid. She'd throw her bitchy smile, dismiss my concerns, and try to gaslight me into thinking I was losing my mind. But I knew better. I had her on tape talking about her weekend plans with David. I had her messages, her photos. I knew exactly what she was doing. I also started doing some digging into her background, her phone logs, her social media activity, anything to get a full picture of her lies. I reached out to a private investigator just to make sure I had every possible angle covered. It was a risky move, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. I needed to know everything, see everything before I made my final move. One night I caught her slipping again. She was on the phone, whispering in a way I'd never seen before. I overheard her mentioning covering her tracks and making sure everything is hidden. That confirmed what I'd suspected, that she was still sneaking around, still lying, even after I knew the truth. It was like she thought she could hide everything forever. I was done playing nice. I decided I'd dump all the evidence on her at once. I was going to confront her with the recordings, the messages, the photos, all of it. But I wasn't just doing it for revenge. I wanted her to understand that she had lost my trust forever. I wanted her to feel the same pain I had felt when I saw that damn photo. I wanted her to realize that her lies and betrayal had consequences. So I set up a meeting. I told her I needed to talk, just us, no distractions. I wanted her to think I was giving her a chance to come clean, to confess everything. But in reality, I was ready to blow her cover to show her I had all her secrets. And when she sat across from me with her fake innocent look, I pulled out my phone and played the recordings. I showed her the messages. I laid it all out. Her face went pale. She stammered, tried to deny it, accused me of stalking her, said I was crazy. But I had her cornered. She finally broke down and tried to spin some story about how she was confused, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that it was just a fling, a stupid mistake. She said she loved me, that she'd never do it again, that she was just under stress. But I didn't buy it. I could see through the tears and the lies. I knew she was trying to manipulate me again, but I wasn't having it. I told her I wasn't interested in her excuses, that she'd betrayed me, lied to my face, and that I couldn't even look at her anymore without feeling disgusted. The emotional roller coaster was brutal. I went from rage to sadness, from feeling humiliated to feeling numb. I'd built this life with her, trusted her, loved her, yet she'd thrown it all away for a quick affair with her boss. The thought of that makes me sick. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach when I realized how deep her betrayal went. But more than anything, I felt a strange sense of relief, knowing that I finally uncovered the truth. At that moment, I decided I couldn't stay in this marriage. Not after all she did. Not after she lied and cheated and tried to hide it. I knew I deserved better, and I knew I'd never be able to trust her again. So I told her I wanted a divorce, that I was done pretending everything was okay, that I'd rather be alone than in a relationship built on lies. The aftermath was messy, of course. She was furious, calling me delusional, saying I was overreacting. She tried to guilt-trip me, cry, plead, but I was done falling for her bullshit. I told her to get out, get her bags, leave the house, and never come back. I wanted nothing more to do with her. I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. Heartbreak because I loved her, but relief because I saw her for what she truly was, a lying, manipulative woman who'd rather cheat than face the consequences of her actions. Looking back, I realize how much this whole thing has changed me. I don't trust people easily anymore. I feel more guarded, more cautious. But I also feel stronger, like I finally took control of my life. The biggest lesson I learned: never ignore those gut feelings. If something feels off, investigate seriously. Because when it hits the fan, you don't want to regret not seeing the signs earlier. I've lost a lot, but I gained clarity, and that might be worth more than anything. The days after she left felt like they dragged on forever. The house suddenly felt so empty, so silent without her bitchy remarks and fake smiles. I thought I'd feel relief, but honestly, I just felt drained. All those years of trust, of loving someone who turned out to be so manipulative, they all hit me at once. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to piece together how I missed all the warning signs, how I let her get away with so much for so long. What's crazy is how quickly things changed. I started getting texts from mutual friends, some sympathizing, some telling me I deserved better. Honestly, I didn't know what to think anymore. Part of me wanted to feel angry at her, to hate her for what she did. But a bigger part felt sad, like I'd lost a part of myself that I'd never get back. I kept asking, how could she be so selfish? How could she use her own marriage as some playground for her own pleasure? I also couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I thought I knew her, trusted her with everything. Turns out I was just a fool to believe she'd be loyal. I saw how easily she lied, how quickly she turned her back on me. That realization hit hard. It made me question everything about our relationship, every moment I thought was real, every word she ever said. Honestly, I wasn't sure what was next. I had no idea how to move forward, whether I should try to salvage anything or just cut my losses and move on. But I knew one thing. I had to start rebuilding my life from scratch. The first step was to block her number, her social media, every way she could contact me. I didn't want to hear her fake apologies or see her trying to manipulate me again. I wanted to erase her from my life, at least for now. I also began searching for legal advice. I knew I needed to protect my assets, figure out the divorce process, and make sure she couldn't take advantage of me. I wasn't naive. I knew she'd try to spin everything her way. But I had enough proof now, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this without consequences. In the quiet moments, I allowed myself to feel everything: anger, hurt, betrayal, because I knew bottling it up wouldn't do any good. I also started reaching out to friends who'd been through similar situations. Their stories helped me realize I wasn't alone, that many people had faced worse and come out stronger on the other side. It was a weird comfort, knowing I wasn't the only one betrayed by someone they loved. I kept reminding myself that I'd been blind for too long. I had ignored the signs, made excuses, convinced myself that her bitchy attitude was just stress or her personality. But deep down, I knew the truth. She was a manipulative, selfish woman who'd lied and cheated her way into the worst betrayal I've ever experienced. The pain is still there, but I'm starting to accept it. It's part of the process. Now I'm focused on healing. I've started going to therapy, talking about everything that happened. For the first time in years, I'm putting myself first, trying to rebuild my confidence, my trust in myself. I don't think I'll ever fully trust her again, and honestly, I don't want to. I want to learn from this, grow stronger, and remember that I deserve honesty and respect, even if I got betrayed badly. This whole experience has taught me a brutal lesson. Never ignore the red flags, trust your instincts. And if someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Because if you don't, you might end up losing everything that really matters, like I nearly did. But I'm still standing, still trying to find my way. And honestly, that's more than I could say a couple of months ago. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me, maybe even saved me in some twisted way. I used to believe in loyalty and trust, in the idea that the person you marry is supposed to be your partner for life. But what I've learned is that sometimes people only show their true colors when the mask comes off. Lisa's betrayal was a wake-up call, not just about her, but about how I'd been blind to the signs for too long. The process of cutting her loose wasn't easy. There were moments I felt like I was drowning in a sea of anger, sadness, and regret. I kept asking myself if I could have done something differently, if I should have seen the signs earlier, or if I was just too naive. But then I reminded myself, no, I wasn't naive. I just loved her too much, and love sometimes blinds us to the truth. The real lesson was that love isn't enough, trust is everything, and once that's broken, it's nearly impossible to put back together. The thing that's helped me move forward, the most important thing, is acceptance. Accepting that she's gone, that the relationship is dead, and that I need to focus on rebuilding myself. I've started working out again, doing things I love, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. Slowly, I'm finding a sense of normalcy. Again, even if part of me still feels raw and wounded. But I also feel stronger. Like I finally took control of my life and didn't let her betrayal define me. What I want to say to anyone reading this is simple. Pay attention to your gut. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how much you love someone or how much you want things to work out. Because once the trust is gone, it's like trying to rebuild a house on a shaky foundation. It's only a matter of time before it collapses. And believe me, betrayal like this leaves scars, but it also teaches you that you're capable of surviving even the worst storms. I hope this story serves as a warning and a lesson. It's okay to feel hurt, to be angry, to cry. But don't let those feelings consume you. Use them as fuel to rebuild your life, stronger, wiser, more aware of what you deserve. I've come to understand that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and leave behind the pain. Because what's waiting on the other side of that pain is freedom. Freedom from lies, betrayal, and the person who never truly cared. So here I am, finally at peace, still healing but ready to move on. I've learned a lot about myself, what I will and won't accept in the future. And most importantly, I now know that I'm enough. I don't need someone who cheats, lies, and manipulates to feel whole. I just need to be honest with myself and trust that someday I'll find someone who values loyalty and respect as much as I do. That's what I hold on to now. Hope that someday I'll find real love again, this time with someone who truly deserves it.